There I was, logged into a virtual call with a client and representatives from many, many different European countries. This was the very, very important quarterly meeting. I was the keynote speaker, and I wanted to make sure that I asked questions that would get to the core of what they wanted as a client, but most importantly, to make this whole event a success. I needed to ask really important questions, but most importantly, I needed to build a relationship with the client and I needed to build their trust. In both business and in everyday work, we have to ask questions to gather information. And in this short newsletter that I posted, I will share with you some types of questions, and then I'll share with you some rapport building tips. So, one of my ancestors, Aristotle, said, the only true wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing. If you enter the situation and the context with this, not the mindset that I know better and I'll tell you the way that it is, you will be able to be successful, but most importantly, build that trust. So when you are planning to ask a set of questions, consider these types of different questions. There's three that I list here. The first one is clarifying questions. I said, for example, tell me more. Why is it that you are looking for this theme, or how has your core value, we were talking about one specific core value, how has this come about? Tell me more. What does it look like? What does it mean? I'm asking them to clarify more of what they're thinking, and whatever your situation is, you can say, finally, I say, I like this question that clarifies. So if the project is a success, what does it look like? Help me understand. So clarifying questions may regurgitate or may have your audience speak more about what it is that they're thinking or wanting. Then there's the connecting types of questions. So how does this relate to this? Or is this similar to this? And those connecting questions allow you to know if you are connecting the dots right, but in some way it allows the person you're speaking to. You can start with help me understand. I've written here, I'm looking at some of my notes. We all know of the importance of Project X. Can you tell me more how this ties to strategic initiatives? So connecting questions, clarifying questions, connecting questions, focus kinds of questions. What are the three takeaways? Focus, I tend to want to ask for specific numbers. So tell me the two takeaways, the three takeaways. For example, in this virtual meeting, I said, if the keynote I delivered is a smashing success, what would be the three learning objectives that we could craft? What do you want them to walk away with? So focus questions often involve asking for numbers and data. Then there's the big picture question where you step away and you try to gain better understanding. It kind of goes higher level than the question that asks you to reflect. So big picture, I would say, what inspired this direction? How are you thinking of this? So in many situations, this type of question is best gained the broader perspective. And it depends who is in the room. Sometimes the people in the room, virtually or in person, are not the ones to have that. So I asked, how does this position contribute to the overall value of this the organization? So besides planning and doing some of this forward thinking with the questions that you ask, there are questions that allow you to get to know a person a little better. So you may be interviewing, and this is the lunch session that everyone and other people that you're not interviewing with join, and you have a broader audience, or it's a cocktail party and you're attending and sort of getting to know people. So here's some tips for asking questions as you are in the social setting, all under the name of communication. Start with building rapport first. So you can warm up with having done your homework, and the questions that you ask have to sound like this, sound like I read about this and I learned this, or we're in this town, tell me about this. So you're building and connecting and building rapport. The questions you ask need to not be direct right away. That can come across as being too pushy or too agenda driven. Try to stay indirect. So if I'm at a conference, I may say the keynote speaker drove home the message of time management. What do you do in your company to help everyone manage their time better? So that's an open-ended or indirect question that asks people to share their information. You always want to ask open-ended questions that allows people to give you data. Tell me more about this. Help me understand this. This is fascinating. How did you get to this? So open-ended questions allow people to share. Questions that go beyond the basic knowledge. So if you're in an interview setting and you ask something that's easily accessible on their website, the company's website, or they just posted on their newsletter, you want to ask beyond those questions. So you may say specifically, the latest industry data shows this. What do you think about this? So it goes beyond something specific, and again, it shows interest. As you're asking all of those questions, I talk a lot as I speak about communication, a lot about nonverbals. You want to be showing, listening, good responses of your nonverbals. You want to even take notes if you're in a meeting specifically. You want to signal that you are really paying close attention. Some settings are loud and crowded, and if you are in a place where you visually get distracted, I quite often turn my body so the person speaking to me, their back is to a wall, so I don't get distracted or see someone I want to talk to as well. So that in a virtual meeting would not be the case, but if you're face to face, that would be the case. Finally, when the other person is speaking, actually show that you're listening. Yes, wow, that's really interesting, but truly do that. You're not overdoing it. I have heard of some people, I speak to some people that tend to be responders, all the time. That tends to be distracting. So I see, quite interesting. That's important. So as you go through this, whether you're asking questions or responding to them, do keep in mind some of these verbals and nonverbals. And from my standpoint, in the virtual meeting where I was, the story that I started initially, it allowed me to gather enough information and really be able to build a keynote that led to the learning objectives they had and get to what we needed to get to. And it was a smashing success. I was very, very pleased, but it was because of the time that I took. Did it create more work for me? The answer is yes, but they were very happy, and I do think we accomplished our goals. So next time you are accomplishing or you're entering an interview or you want to build a relationship or you're working on a project, think of the types of questions that I mentioned earlier. Think of the questions that build the big picture, that focus specifically, the questions that connect the dots, the questions that go beyond the surface and clarify things and give you in general the big picture. So be mindful with your questions. You're going to learn more. Thank you for listening. If you have questions, drop them in the Q&A for me and I'll respond back. Take care.